Welcome to Bonehead. Merry Christmas.
My spleen is throbbing.
If you have a Christmas tree, you're going to hell because you're a pagan.
That's historically accurate. I mean, you look it up.
I couldn't stop. I just had to do it.
Well,
You got lights, you're going to hell.
last time I checked, they didn't have pine trees in Jerusalem.
Are you sure? Have you been to Jerusalem?
I mean, Bethlehem. Is Bethlehem in Jerusalem?
Oh my God.
It could be.
I'm going to buy you a biblical thesaurus.
A biblioteca?
What's a biblioteca?
I don't know. What is a biblioteca? You're the learned one here.
Oh my God.
Doctor, give me the news.
My son, the doctor.
No, my mother gets to say that now.
He does so well.
No, that she doesn't get to say that.
Anyway, back to us. Welcome to Bonehead. Shauna.
Why'd you say my sister's name?
I thought it was Shanana.
I didn't want to be so impersonal by screaming ho ho ho.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Love you, sis.
I didn't see that coming.
I love her too. Really? Because I thought it up on the way here, driving home, giggling.
I was hoping we'd have one good ho 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 pip comment, but no, I see we went a different way.
Well, in this episode, we are going to talk about what? A Christmas Carol.
That's right. It's Time Travel Part 3.
Which
Dun,
actually,
dun, dun.
Robert Zemeckis, who did the Jim Carrey version, said A Christmas Carol is the greatest time travel story ever written.
no, I mean because that's what it's all about. But before we go into that, one of the things, and if
And it's
you're
my Looney Tunes Christmas tie.
It'll be right there on the floor when this is over.
just like Chad's pants,
Try to pick it up with a vacuum cleaner. It'll end well.
Shauna.
Oh, anyway, so one part that's relevant about the Christmas Carol, this is going to be the academic part of this, so fast forward as need be. But Christmas Carol was part of a big tradition of Victorian ghost stories.
I wonder if I can make this big white ball in my mouth and
You've
choke on
taken
it.
a lot of big white balls in your mouth.
Who is Victorian? Why does she like witchboard
It
so
was Queen
much?
Victoria,
Oh.
ergo the Victorian age. But the reason they
I
were
love
popular,
that song about fat bottom girls.
They make the rock and roll go round.
yeah, Queen Victoria's greatest hit.
I may very well be a cat in another life.
Anyway, Victorian ghost stories were huge. Turn to the Screw is set during the holidays, and they were normally set during Christmas. A couple reasons for that. One was the Victorian age coincided with the rise of the industrial age. People moved into the cities, and for people that were used to rural, where there was distance between farms, it was the first time that you would hear bumps in the night. You would hear chains moving as people moved things.
I'm sure those bumps in the night were something else, but continue.
The other part about it was
Shauna.
They were lived in really close quarters back then.
they did, and those were probably some of the bumps. That's true. The other part about it, though, was where they were using different oils to heat their house, which led to flickering lights, and also put carbon monoxide into the air, which caused, even in well-ventilated areas, minor hallucinations. So ghost stories became really big during the holidays because you didn't open your windows as much. You didn't have stuff like that. Plus, going back to paganism, there were a lot of people that believed, we now associate with Halloween, but there were a lot of people that believed that around New Year is when the threshold between the living and the dead got the thinnest. As a matter of fact, there's an entire episode of Millennium with Lance Henriksen where Darren McGavin plays...
Oh my God, we did. I will perk up for Darren McGavin.
Darren McGavin played Frank Black's dad.
Yes.
In the episode. And
Darren McGavin was the Night Stalker, and for you Christmas people out there, he's the dad in A Christmas Story.
Yes. Anyway, Darren McGavin played his father. It was Chris Carter's ode to the fact he loved Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Which was basically what his version of the X-Files.
Yeah. And he ended up...
X-Files was his version
yes.
of that, yeah.
He ended up using him as Frank Black's father and used the ancient belief that you could tell who was going to die the next year because as night fell on New Year's Eve, you would see their spirit starting to leave their body, and that's how that episode ends. So his father was going to die. So all of this led to why there are so many Christmas stories innately tied to ghosts and Christmas, and it all gets tied to that. Despite the fact we know Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol as being the main one, he wrote a ton of them. A Christmas Carol is the best known one. However, he also followed it up with The Chimes, which was about a Man who is attracted.
A haunted doorbell. Ooh.
Actually, Chad's right.
Really?
It's the ghost. It's the ghost.
You're a demon.
It's the ghost of the church bells.
Or I'm well read.
Summons a man.
No.
Summons a man to let him know that he needs to change his ways. And it actually is a critique
Rip
on...
off.
It's a critique on should the rich help the poor. And at the end of the story...
No, they shouldn't.
As at the end of the story, he wakes
Well,
up...
that's what Christmas Carol's about. He was making political statements.
He wakes up, though, and the narrator actually comes in and says, is him waking up a dream within a dream, or is this all happening? He followed that up with Cricket on the Hearth, which was a fantasy. It didn't have ghosts in it, but it had a cricket that happened to be a guardian angel.
The cricket on the Hertz.
Did Disney sue him?
I think Dickens lived shortly before Disney.
Mm.
He died in, the 1800s.
That won't stop Disney.
That won't stop Disney. Disney's building a time machine. It is a time travel episode. So Cricket on the Hearth, he followed that up with The Haunted Man, which is the darkest of his Christmas... Well, the second darkest of his Christmas stories. The Haunted Man, if you like horror, you should actually read. A man is approached by a spirit who tells him that he can erase all of his pain.
I thought we were talking about A Christmas Carol.
These are the stories that Dickens follows The Christmas Carol with. I'm talking about how jacked up and how common Dickens used ghosts in Christmas.
I love it when you say Dickens.
The Haunted Man, the spirit approaches a man and says,
Dickens.
I will take all your pain away. You'll never have any memories of pain. And the man reluctantly finally says,
You come play with my ball?
I'm going to take away
Hey,
your
you come
pain.
play with my ball?
When the man has all his pain removed, he becomes the worst person ever.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has no pain, so he doesn't understand what he's doing to other people.
Even with his name Dickens?
His name's not Dickens.
At one point in the story, does he have a hammer and go, look what I can do? I feel nothing.
It's called
I feel nothing. I feel nothing.
The full story is called The Haunted Man and the Ghost Bargain. The darkest story they wrote, of direct link to A Christmas Carol, Dickens started writing a novel before he gave up writing novels. Because A Christmas Carol is not a novel, it's a novella.
Yeah.
And most of it, he wrote mostly short stories after that. He started this book before he did him, called The Wreck of the Golden Mary. He actually didn't finish it. This book is written by him and 5 other people, including a reverend.
Chad went to the camp of Sissy Marys.
It shows. This story is the exact
I don't
opposite.
get to use the word Sissy Mary that often. Keep going.
This story is the exact opposite of A Christmas Carol. And if you like A Christmas Carol, read this and you'll hate it because it's the exact opposite. Has a rich man, it's about the sinking of a boat. There's 2 lifeboats that make it off. One of them has a rich man that is the mirror image of Ebenezer Scrooge.
Because, baby, you're a rich man.
One of them and there's a sickly child in the lifeboat with the Ebenezer Scrooge type character. And you know how at the end of the Christmas Carol, Tiny Tim doesn't die? Screw it. In this, the little girl dies. They keep her corpse on the boat. And the rich man talks about how much better they'd be off if horrible things happen. He never reforms. They finally actually get saved. And it's all about heading west to get gold.
Is the character's name Ebenezer Smooge?
No, but the wreck
Oh my God, Ebenezer Smooge.
The Wreck of the Golden
It's better than
Mary
Spooge.
is often considered one of Dickens, and he didn't write alone. Wilkie Collins and a bunch of other authors at the time.
Didn't he
wrote
play
it.
third base?
There's a bunch of horror.
No, who's on?
But anyway,
No, what?
What's on third?
No, who's on
the
second?
other. The final thing I will say is, if you do like horror stories at all, not related to Christmas, you need to read Dickens' The Signal Man. Because it inspired M.R. James, H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft said it was one of the most essential works.
Now
of
we've
people's
gotten off of A Christmas Carol completely.
Because all of this happened because A Christmas Carol was a success. Because Dickens, and the thing you have to understand about why The Christmas Carol being a success meant the world to Dickens was every story Dickens published in the United States, he saw nothing for. Just like every story Edgar Allan Poe published in England, he saw nothing for. There was no international copyright law, which meant that if you watch any documentaries about Poe, he'll talk about he admired Dickens. When Dickens came to America the first time, Poe met him. They actually enjoyed each other's company, but Poe had...
They said, do you have a fancy cousin you can introduce me to?
Mm.
I love me some cousins.
Dickens.
Dickens was a philanderer. He cheated on his wife several times.
With
I
cousins?
thought that meant he gave money away. Probably gave all of his Dickens away.
Anyway.
Good old Chuck Dickens. Chuck Dickens.
Anyway, so A Christmas Carol being a success.
Hey, Chuck.
Actually, I mean, Dickens was huge. He was the most popular Victorian writer, but there wasn't much money in writing unless you did presentations. And when A Christmas Carol really caught on, as did some of his other stories as well, but he would read it.
Right.
Because there were so many illiterate people still that he got paid for reading. And other people got paid for reading his works, which he sometimes got a kickback on. So it became a big deal that this became a success. And that's why all these other ghost stories that Dickens cashed in on, there were tons of Victorian ghost stories, but he started cashing in on his own trend because it made him money.
He's the Peter Benchley of Dickens.
Peter Benchley is the Peter Benchley of Jaws.
Yeah.
Look it up, kids.
Real quick, he was, by the time Christmas Carol came out, he was kind of washed up. They didn't consider him. Nobody would publish it. He self-published it and made a fortune off of it.
Yeah, and he went back to publishing in journals, which we can't do anymore.
Yeah, no.
But that's why he gave up novels. They were taking too long, and you're right. He was considered... He had peaked.
He had
pulled an Orson Welles.
And nobody wanted to do it.
Should we be talking about the fact that there's a new movie coming out called The Man Who Invented Christmas?
It's out.
Yeah, and it stars the guy from
Peter
Legion.
Dinklage.
No, the guy from Legion and the live action Beauty and the Beast as Dickens, right?
I'm forgetting.
I've never seen
Haley
Legion.
is shaking her head.
I'm
yes.
forgetting his
Dan
name.
Stevens.
Dan
So
Stevens.
so
Dan
should we-
Stevens.
so
TV's Dan Stevens.
So does that? And this is one of the. And we're still
Mom,
talking
Paul
about Christmas
Stevens.
Carol. But does this bother anybody that they hired one of the most handsome men in television and movies to play a guy who looked like your drunk uncle who lived in the basement?
Hey.
You know, everybody was afraid to talk to.
Evidently, Charles Dickens had something going for him because he did. I mean, he was considered a ladies' man, and he did participate in allegedly numerous affairs.
So did
Love.
FDR, but he wasn't a looker either.
According to FDR's mistress, one of them, and I love the quote. The only thing weak on that man was his legs.
Ugh.
Yes.
By the way, now everybody go watch FDR.
American Badass. All right, so let's go through this. We really
You've
want to...
given me your cough, jerkwad.
Well, there's a cough drop.
I'm breathing
and my
fine.
voice still isn't back. Sorry.
Hold on, I just want to illustrate. I'm breathing fine.
I'm breathing fine, too.
Haley, how's your lungs?
Yeah.
Touch and go.
For the stage, A Christmas Carol has been done over 50 types. And we're not...
50 types?
I wrote types. I think I meant times. But there's
In
over
Dickens'
50...
lifetime, it was very common that his works were adapted.
There's over 50 different types of stage plays of it. Not including how many times it's actually been done.
Well, as I say, and throwing that in, that was really common because it was adapted to stage within a year of him writing it, and all these other ones I talked about that he did as Christmas plays were adapted, some of them within 6 weeks of him finishing them.
The films are over 20, which I think is wrong. I think Wikipedia is wrong.
I think there's at least 30.
I would imagine. TV, there's over 50, but that's not including the TV shows that ripped it off. May I go through a few of these?
I want to see if you catch the ones that I
The
got.
Smurfs,
Yep.
the Flintstones,
Mm-hmm.
Sanford and Son,
Mm-hmm.
Bugs Bunny,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Magoo.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped after that.
Dukes of Hazzard did one.
Did they really?
Dukes of Hazzard did
yeah.
a Christmas Carol.
I've never seen that one.
The Real Ghostbusters, who I think have done one of the better versions.
Which is
I agree.
written by JMS, right?
John Michael
John
Straczynski
Yeah.
created Babylon 5, wrote
Five.
for a bunch of other stuff.
Right. So British television televised it a lot, but at that time, before the '60s or early '60s, before they didn't really tape anything, so it was actually live television. So nobody knows the accurate number of how many times it was actually done for British television.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they would put it on tape, and then they would reuse the tape. They would tape over it.
Radio, there's over 20 that Wikipedia can find.
My research said in television and radio and cinema there was 135, and I think that was, I
think
still
that
think
number's
that
low.
was, that number's low.
I think once you add in things that ripped it off, it goes.
There's
Yeah.
over 4 operas,
Yeah.
different operas, and parody. There's a ton of parodies. The only one I wrote down was Ghosts of Girlfriends Past with Matthew McConaughey.
Well, you could argue. I mean, it's different, but you could argue even things like It's a Wonderful Life uses this kind of the same.
Yeah.
Instead of showing what it's like, it shows him what it or what it is. It shows him what it would be like if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
That similar trend, and Capper said it just happened to be set at Christmas, but it does tie into that same idea.
So what do you want to talk about? You want to start talking about some of our favorites?
Yeah, I don't see why we don't. We've got...
Go ahead.
No, ladies first.
You're
I
laughing
made
at that?
I made Haley laugh. That's
You're
all
laughing at that?
If I make Haley laugh, I've done a good job.
Well, why don't you talk about it? You said Ghostbusters did a better job. Why?
Oh, it's just their take on it. So the take is they somehow time traveled
Back in time.
back in time. They
As
go
one
they go
does.
through a snowstorm,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up back in time. Which, by the way, in the Ghostbusters reality, this is all true. It's not a story. This actually happened.
This
Well,
actually
it
happened.
makes sense.
So
yeah.
they meet the three ghosts. They capture them in the ghost traps, and then they meet Scrooge, and Scrooge thanks them, and then they get back to the present, and the present has changed because Scrooge never changed,
And Christmas is gone, right?
and Christmas is gone, and by the time they find this out, the ghosts are already in the containment unit, trapped. So they try to recreate the ghost for Scrooge himself while one of them goes in.
Isn't it Winston that has to go in?
No, I'm
No,
pretty sure
it's Egon.
It's Egon
It
and
is
Slimer.
Egon. Yeah,
So-
well, Slimer can navigate that.
Yeah. So it's one of the best television
It is.
versions.
I actually watched this a few months ago. You let me borrow it. I hadn't
Yes.
seen it since I was a kid. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes.
It is pretty good.
And by the way, if you want to watch it, all the episodes are on Netflix,
Yeah. they're not
Oh,
on
okay,
Netflix.
cool.
which is why I took it from you because I was that's like you got it on Netflix now. But you know, I'm not a big fan of some of the versions that are considered more popular, like the George C. Scott version of.
It's not bad. It's pretty good.
It's considered.
It's also got David. He played
Caruso.
David Warner. David Warner plays.
Marley,
No, David Warner plays his.
Cratchit.
Yeah, Bob Cratchit.
I've only seen bits and pieces.
Now
and I've
there
never
has to,
seen
by the way, be an adult version where it's Bob Cratchit. Can we just say that that's got to be out there?
it.
I would imagine. I mean, I don't know these things.
Bob Cratchit. Shauna.
Kevin, is there one? Kevin Shelton, if you're watching this.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so you're not a fan of that one. I actually like it.
It's considered. I think it's considered probably the best, one of the best versions, and I don't understand why.
Here's the best version, and it's actually my favorite.
I can't wait.
For most people, it's considered the best version. From what I can find, heard this a lot. It's the Alistair Sam one,
Yeah,
and it's in black and white.
that's what my dad loved.
It's the one I love too, and I actually never saw it till about 3 or 4 years ago. It's directed by Brian Desmond Hurst, and it's a British version, and it's black and white. And for some odd reason, it just does it for me. I don't know why. I don't know why other people. It wasn't actually a huge hit at the time when it came out. Of course, there's been so many of them. But it's just over the years. They've colorized it. Go out, watch the black and white version, please. I don't know why, but the Alistair Sim one just does it for me.
My father's theory.
I like the George C. Scott one, but
My father's theory was it was him. It was
yeah,
he's
not just evil.
Yeah, it wasn't. He wasn't 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
He had some humanity to him to begin with, but that made him all the more tragic.
Yeah, he's just tragic and sad. And oddly enough, I didn't realize this. Even though that's considered the best version, it omits one of the most famous lines. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Yeah.
It's not in that movie.
Really?
They omitted it. No. However, Alistair Sim would later get to do the line because he played him in the animated version in 1971,
Yeah, I was about to say, I know there's an
which I've never seen.
I've never
Which, by
seen
the
it.
way, there's a ton of animated versions.
Ah.
There's an animated version with Nicolas Cage.
Really?
Yes, look it up.
Is it a low budget animated one?
It came out. It was actually done. I think it was funded internationally. I think it was funded in the UK.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be honest, I haven't seen it.
Now, did Scrooge have to get the Declaration of Independence in that one?
But no, so I mean, literally, when you say people who have done A Christmas Carol,
Patrick Stewart's got a famous one.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
that a lot of
yeah.
people like.
Yes.
Matter of fact,
Oh,
actually,
coming
it's
up.
sitting here on the table. You could argue that Boris Karloff is playing a version of the Scrooge in The Grinch.
absolutely. The Grinch is kind of a version.
Yeah,
In the sense
that he's mean and miserly.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. There's one thing that I want to talk about in regards to how it's told in the different variations. And you've read the book,
I've
the
read the book,
novella.
too.
I don't care about you. I care about James. This episode's about James.
This really hurts.
through the-
for some reason.
I'm going to go sit over here and play with my white
In
ball.
the story itself, the novella
If you're listening to this podcast, he's wearing a Santa hat.
he is wearing a Santa hat that he keeps dangling.
Now, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're just listening to this, I'm playing with my white ball. What's a Santa hat?
He's overcompensating.
Well, it's the size of a baseball, so it makes up for two.
Anyway,
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Whoa.
does the visit of the three
All
ghosts...
fruit, no root.
Oh my God.
Oh, God.
Off the rails.
Go ahead.
Did the visit of the three ghosts take place in one night?
Yes.
Okay.
They did it all in one night. Of course they did.
Because I thought there were some iterations where it was over 3 days. Like it was one every night.
There may
Now,
be.
it's been done that way in movies, and the reason they've done that in some movies is so they could actually show him changing over time. I can't remember which version I'm
Yeah.
seeing, but you're right. There was a movie where it was
there's
over
more than
3
one.
nights, and it had him leading up to Christmas, and it was to show minor ways that he changed
Yeah.
until the. I have seen versions that have done that, but the book it's all done
But,
in one night.
That's one night.
Because Marley, you'll be visited by 3 ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and me and Joe, and I think you agree with us, that one of the best versions that I love the most is Bill Murray's Scrooged.
Yes.
It's directed by Richard Donner.
Written by Michael O'Donoghue.
Yes.
Yeah, who actually wrote for the Lampoon,
And
National Lampoon magazine.
and there's many reasons why I like this movie, but one of the main reasons I really love it is you see Bill Murray's slow descent into madness after each ghost,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's slowly becoming a more welcoming person because he starts caring
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
every bit by bit. And there's some I don't think the George C. Scott version did it right in the parts that I've seen. He's still just Scrooged until the very end.
Well, and I think you hit on an interesting point, and this isn't a funny point, but I think it's a point that I feel compelled to make as somebody that loves the book.
You feel compelled?
Yes, the power of Christ.
Healed!
Ow!
We talked about that Christmas tree. You go into hell.
Anyway,
Paganism.
no, you hit on
Europe.
a valid point because some versions of it really make it hard to feel that Scrooge has really changed if they don't show him slowly changing before he sees his own tombstone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
most of them do that, though. They just
Yeah, I
don't
was gonna say,
do-
yeah,
He's a straight jerk until he sees the tombstone. He's like, oh, I was going to die. People are going to hate me. I'm better now.
yeah, and the versions that don't show that change, you're right. The versions that just show, oh, okay, he's dead. And then he's like, oh, no, now I need to change. You're right. When the versions that do that don't show him changing until that scene, it is a bad adaptation. That's the only way to say it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, Scrooge.
But no, and also too, I mean, the other thing was it changed a lot from the story, but it kept the feel of it, the soul of it.
It's one of my favorite Bill Murray performances.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
But you know,
The ghosts are so interesting.
oh, the ghosts are fantastic.
Oddly enough, though, I've read an interview with Bill Murray saying he wasn't overly happy with it, and he didn't think Richard Donner was either.
But it's so great, and like I said,
That neither one of them got really what they wanted.
They even managed to add more characters and make it interesting. I mean, they changed. There's slight variations. For example, you know, in the original story, there is no Bobcat Goldthwait character.
But why wouldn't there be?
And, you
That's
know-
because Dickens hadn't met Bobcat.
Scrooge doesn't have a boss.
Yeah.
You know, Robert Mitchum's his boss. Those two characters are fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I just lost a point.
It's like when he played baseball all over.
Yeah.
You can't lose points in baseball. I don't know where it's going.
Just roll with it.
All right.
But no, I mean, this story was done well, really well. And then the ending part where he finally realizes and he gives the speech on live television is great.
No, I totally agree.
And it
with
stars Buddy Hackett.
you. And Jamie
and
Farr.
Jamie Farr beat me to it.
And the $6 Million Man,
Lee Majors.
whom
and,
I met at Comic-Con and moderated his panel.
and you forgot Robert Goulet.
And of course,
Buster Poindexter.
Goulet.
Buster Poindexter.
But and I think that's it.
David Johansen.
And I think that's maybe why when we were talking about doing a Christmas
Carol
episode-
Kane.
Carol Kane, yeah.
Carol Kane's probably one of the best ghosts.
Yes, Ghost of Christmas
Bitch hit me in the head with a toaster.
But yeah, I think the
Love a
reason
girl with spirit.
Hold on, time out. Who is that you just showed
And
me?
John Glover.
And John Glover.
Oh, John Glover.
Haley, I apologize.
I loved him as the devil.
John, yeah, and he's really great in that. That was the point that I lost. Thank you.
But I think that's the other thing, and I think that's why when we were talking about doing a Christmas episode, we got to do a Christmas Carol because it is a story you can adapt every year as long as you approach it like we talked about before. Do we need another version of Robin Hood? Do we need another King Arthur story? And we don't, unless you're going to bring something new, and very few people have.
No, but I think a
there's
Christmas Carol. Yeah.
A Christmas Carol you can do different things with. I think we've got Mickey's Christmas Carol on the table. I mean, I think.
Which is one of my favorites, actually.
It's one of my
two
favorites.
favorites is Alistair Sim. The two that I'm going to watch this season will actually not probably Scrooge, but I want Chad to have Scrooge. Is that and Mickey's Christmas Carol?
And it'll be Scrooged and Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Although
and a third one, which I'll bring up here shortly.
Mickey's Christmas Carol does suffer from, he just sees the tombstone and changes.
Yeah, he just changes.
But it's Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah. It's.
So here's another question I'm going to ask,
Scrooge
based on
McDuck.
the story. Because another thing that changes every single time. I've never seen it told the same way. The Ghost of Christmas Past.
Yes.
In the story, what type of ghost is he?
It's a light.
It's a lie.
So is it a candle? Because
Most-
in Robert Zemeckis' Christmas
The
Carol,
most accurate representation of that is Robert Zemeckis' A Christmas Carol
Right.
with Jim Carrey. Whether you hate it or love it,
I love
was
it.
Was not a big hit. Didn't do well. A few weeks after it came out, another movie came out called Avatar that nobody remembers.
Ugh.
And Avatar just took over all the 3D cinemas.
My problem with Avatar is really talky. Those people talk until they're blue in the face.
Oh!
I'll shut myself.
Steroids on stilts. I mean Smurfs on stilts. I screwed that joke right up.
Your commentary about the NBA, sir, is not well.
Again,
Smurfs on
I made
stilts.
Haley chuckle twice. Great episode.
No, but I think you're right, and that actually leads to what is one of my hands down favorite adaptations of A Christmas Carol. Has to be Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh,
Now, let me say why. Michael Caine nails Scrooge.
who wrote all the songs?
Paul Williams.
There you
Paul
go.
Williams. I was about to
Little
say,
Enos.
that's the other thing. These songs.
That's what he calls him in Baby Driver commentary. You guys will probably know him as Little Enos.
The songs in that are good Christmas songs. Take them out of the movie. The Ghost of Christmas Present. That's one of the best ways that character has been portrayed, where he ages rapidly because Christmas Present.
Smashio.
Christmas.
Smashio. With yogurt.
Yes.
That's
your Mickey's.
That's Mickey's.
But if you watch the Muppets Christmas Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Present only lives one day, and they age the character as he goes along. And it is actually kind of, there's a part of me that even when I watched that, because I took my younger sister to see it in theaters when it first came out.
Is that illegal? Well, it is Kentucky. I spilled water on my hand.
Good job. Continue. Because now I got a question for you as soon as you say
And I
She's
can
still
remember
single?
being, she was about 6, so I would have been about 13.
I guess that's legal.
And I remember.
Joe's got a thing for sisters.
I remember.
Don't get us started what he does when he watches Sister Act.
Oh my God.
Shauna.
Anyway, the way those characters are handled, Michael Caine as Scrooge nails that character.
But there's not a. I mean, it's Rizzo and
It's Charles Dickens.
is
Yeah.
Dickens. Rizzo
Well, no,
and
Gonzo is
Gonzo.
Dickens. And they play with that so much. As a matter of fact, what I love about it is how inconsistent that is. Where he's like, I wrote this story, so I know everything about it. And there's times when he is omniscient. And then at the very end of the story, when the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come shows up, they're like, this is too scary for us. And I remember thinking, even when I was younger, dude, you just told us you wrote the story. You know this ends well. And he goes, no, we're just going to let the audience experience it. And they leave. But the jokes that are in there, the Muppet-style jokes, don't fall flat. They still work with it. Kermit as Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim. Even though they're Muppets, there's still something, Tiny Tim has a song. There's something about that adaptation. And Michael Caine playing Scrooge so straight and getting to see the reasons that he turned out the way that they did, it worked. I like it.
I don't think Michael Caine played a really good Scrooge in this. I don't feel like he got it right.
What do you think he did wrong?
He just wasn't.
Well,
he kept
doing an Australian accent.
No, he just wasn't mean enough. I felt like even when he was trying to be mean, it was still.
But
it didn't come across as
drew
a truly
a wreath at a frozen child. What did
Joe does that weekly?
And Joe's
and people go, "Oh shucks, look at him, he's so cute."
I know he does get away with that a lot.
They don't say
cute.
It's
just Joe. Meanwhile,
it's the second one. I don't get cute a lot, but I really do get. It's just Joe.
Replace.
I literally heard the man, the myth, the legend as I was walking down the stairs today. Somebody screamed.
I was going to say replace Scrooge cute with Harry Bastard.
I get that.
Ooh, Haley agreed.
But it's usually with a smile.
But yeah, no. So I think that's I think it's probably one of my favorite Scrooges. Take away the Muppets, take away everything else, because he doesn't play him. Scrooge isn't necessarily evil. He just wants his money.
Well, let me ask you this. You said the Ghost of Christmas Past ages and dies in a day.
No, present only lives one day.
Okay.
That's because he says, and all of my 1,9,000
Yeah.
Well, Robert Zemeckis' character does that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but the Muppets did it first.
Technically Dickens did it first because he wrote the damn thing.
Yes, but
I don't know. Are you sure the Muppets were the first ones to do that?
The first one that did it that way. That did it to where, because at the very end, he is gray, and he can't stand. He has to sit on the bench, and Scrooge goes, "Don't leave me, I've learned so much from you. Speak words of comfort to me." And he goes, "My time on this plane is very short, but now we'll go to the Ghost of Christmas Future, go forth and know him better, man." And then he effectively fades, he dies. And there's something, but you're right, that line of there have been 1,800 of my siblings have came before me and Scrooge to sing up the grocery bills. Which is, again, it just shows that he's just thinking about the money. He's not thinking about the camaraderie. He's not thinking about anything else. It's the money.
Honestly, I like it. I'm a huge Muppets fan. You won't know
I
that.
like it.
I'm a huge Paul Williams fan. And by the way, literally, go look up Paul Williams. He's an amazing songwriter.
And there's a documentary for Paul Williams called
I'm Not Dead Yet.
I'm Not Dead Yet. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. However, the reason why I think I don't go, oh, it's the Muppets Christmas Carol. It's actually, I don't care for the songs. There's a couple good ones.
I'm with Joe. The songs don't pull me in.
There's a couple good ones.
And there's some quirky stuff about Michael Caine that bothers me that I can't get into.
I don't mind Michael Caine, but a lot of the songs I don't care for. I like the opening one.
Oh, the Scrooge one is great. The Scrooge one is great. And then
the whole love song in the middle.
Oh, no. Well, that's cut, by the way. Buy the new DVD. It's not on there. They cut it. It was hated so bad. Look it up. It's hated so badly. I have an old copy of the DVD. My dad hates that song. My dad, by the way, this is a family tradition. My father loves that movie so much. He used to always watch the Alistar Sims one. Then he
makes you sit around a potbelly stove, and each one of you gets 50 licks.
That was when I was younger. He's worked out a lot of his anger issues as I
his
grew up.
potbelly stove is he takes a Sharpie on his stomach.
I was going to go a whole other
Feel the warmth, son. Feel the warmth.
I was going to go a whole other level.
That's the only warmth he ever had. It's the only warmth he ever had. See, that's a lie. Christmas Carol. By the way,
why did you do it in a Maine accent?
I don't know. I'm stupid.
Don't go up there.
The ground sour.
Sour.
The other part about that, by the way, though, talking about Dickens, another reason that work is so adaptable is there are so many great lines in it. I have actually used the line, "There's more of gravy than of grave about you," outside of.
Can I read a couple of things?
Yeah.
Although the word Scrooge means a stingy person, now in Charles Dickens' time, the word was a slang term meaning to squeeze.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No.
The word humbug is misunderstood by many people, which is a pity since the word provides a key insight to Scrooge's hatred of Christmas. The word humbug describes deceitful efforts to fool people by pretending to a fake loftiness of false sincerity. So when Scrooge calls Christmas a humbug, he's claiming that people only pretend to charity and kindness in an effort to delude him, each other, and themselves.
I thought humbug just meant you go put your lips on a beetle's butt.
No.
Which
In
actually,
Scrooge's eyes, he's the one man honest enough to admit that no one really cares about anyone else.
well, and that's actually one of the things that is true, and that's actually is why he is redeemable. It's not that he has a hatred of mankind. He just thinks that they're covering up who they really are. He has, in a weird warped sense, this pity for how they're denying who they are.
Yeah.
And so, in that way, Scrooge is kind of oddly heroic in a skewed way. If he was being exposed to true con artists, he was heroic. Being exposed to people who truly believed in the season, he's the devil.
We'll get back to the adaptations. One more thing really quick. Another reason why I think it's so popular, other than time travel, people getting to relive their past. We've talked about this before. These are just things you think about. How many of you know somebody who is this? I used to work for a lady. Extremely religious. We were talking about Halloween. And she said, well, I'm not giving out candy. Why not? Well, I'm not giving other people's kids candy. Let them go buy their own candy. Same thing. I was doing something for, and she was extremely religious. Let's say we're Angel Tree. Was an Angel Tree. I think it was Circle of Love. Buying toys for kids. Well, how do you know those kids don't need those toys? You never met them.
Yeah.
I meet tons of people like that.
Yeah, well, and it's the equivalent of, there's all this data out there about how much that you give to charity actually goes to the charity and stuff, and you do need to be aware.
You do, but there's a certain amount of cynicism that's got me beat.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I backstory on me, I don't give to the United Way. Sorry, United Way, but the reason I don't give to the
Unless
United Way,
they want to, promote the show.
in which case the United Way is important to our communities, and we appreciate your gifts. But the reason I don't give to the United Way was when I did grow up. My dad lost his job when I was 3. We had some hard time, and when my dad first got back on with a full-time job with benefits, and things started to turn around for my family, my father felt compelled, because he tries to be a good person, to try to give back. So he became what was at the time called a full share giver, which meant that your company would contribute what you contribute, and he gave so much of a percentage. And if you go back and look this up, in the 80s, they found out that the United Way was scamming people out of money, and that the guy that was running the United Way at one point owned 2 homes in Hawaii. He owned Now, they have since straightened up. That being said, I have such a memory of my father's disappointment that I can't give to the United Way.
Yeah,
I know they do good work. I know they do, but now, does that mean I don't give, though? And that's the difference.
Yeah.
But and like I said, back to Joe's point, everybody knows that one jerk who you just wish would have a change of attitude.
And I don't even know if she was a jerk. It was just always funny to me, because she's a really conservative person. I'm not going to say who she was. She's a very nice person. She's a friend of mine to this day. I like her. But she's very conservative.
Not anymore after this episode. They actually watch this episode.
She's not watching it.
Joe likes her. She doesn't. Like
very right wing. But always preaching the Jesus and the gospel, and that's great. But how do you know those kids need anything? I'm not giving my. It just cracks me up.
Are there no prisons?
Yeah.
No
poorhouses. Tell me, sir.
There's plenty of those.
Decrease the surplus population.
There's plenty of those. Well, if they want, they should go there. My taxes pay for them.
And does Christmas Carol not have one of the best opening lines of any story?
Oh, yeah.
Bob Marley was dead to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did it the right way. Okay, somebody's dead.
Yep.
Keep reading.
Yep.
This you must hold true, or what follows will not fill you with wonder. I'm paraphrasing, but it's very close to that. Will not fill you with wonder. So, by the way, the best spoiler ever would be a version of to do a version of the A Christmas Carol, and then be like, no, Bob was fine. He's right over there. That's totally where it goes. Bob's just being a jerk.
Yeah. So let's talk about some more of the versions.
Well, we've already talked about it, but I still think Robert Zemeckis' The Christmas Carol does not get any credit.
Why do you think it didn't do well?
I think because people have seen The Christmas Carol so many times. By that point, it's just another version.
Well,
And then also too, this was his last stop mocap.
I don't want to talk about it too much, but we could go into how this killed his next movie.
Yeah.
They were actually casting, and I'm almost positive, because we want to do an episode about movies that were never finished or released.
Yeah.
They were doing the Beatles' Yellow Submarine.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And Disney shut it down
Because
after
it's
the
when this-
Christmas Carol.
But it was so. And Jim Carrey, who, by the way, I know is crap crazy,
But did you?
and is probably nauseating in real life. He's really good.
He's really
He's
talented.
a talented actor.
Say what you will about the live action Grinch, but he does that real well.
Oh man,
He's very talented.
and him as Ebenezer Scrooge was fantastic, and the imagery in that movie is amazing.
And he plays all three of the ghosts.
And he plays all three of the ghosts.
Real quick too, I've got to say this about Jim Carrey. Not related to this, but one of my favorite, Man on the Moon, is a movie I love, and there's a documentary on Netflix now that Netflix made called Jim and Andy, and it's Jim Carrey talking about how playing Andy Kaufman twerked him,
Yeah.
how it changed the way that he viewed comedy, and how it, and just as he tried to be more and more kind of method act that character, he realized something about.
And if you watch that documentary, you go, at least I did, that's a little over the top. The way his stuff. But anyway,
Not get it back. You know why I think? There's two reasons.
let me hear him.
All right.
I'm done listening. James.
I think it's too much of a straight adaptation.
Yes.
I think it gets weird
Yes.
when it's just the light. And Jim Carrey, I think Jim Carrey should not have played all those parts.
Yeah.
Because you still think it's Jim Carrey, not anything against him. But I don't think he should have played all those parts. I think it gets a little weird.
I don't know. I think
that movie has some filler in it. There's a long chase scene at the end
Yeah, that didn't need to be there.
that was there for you in the theater for 3D.
Yes.
Can I make a comment about that too? And I'm going to say something that may be unpopular, but Robert
Right.
Zemeckis' Christmas films. Isn't that also true of the Polar Express?
Which one? Which part?
There's a lot of filler.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of filler.
Because
I prefer the Polar Express over that.
Read the
but-
Polar
I know.
Express book.
Well, there's nothing there.
Exactly.
There's a whole dance sequence about hot
Did
chocolate.
we need not? Yeah, my kids love that song and they drive me
So
crazy.
does my kids.
But what's
Actually, I kinda
Eddie
like it.
Deason? Eddie Deason. Did we need his character? What am I supposed to learn other than Eddie Deason is in a bunch of movies made fun of by Mr. Sinister 2000 and a bunch of crap.
Well,
films?
he was in some late 70s, early 80s. I think he's in Hold Your Hand, which is like Zemeckis' first film. I don't know.
No, I know. I'm picking on Eddie Deason. But there's just something about...
I know, there's a lot of filler in both.
I read a review, and it stuck with me long before I ever saw the Polar Express. Time Magazine, I read their review, because my parents got Time Magazine, so I didn't get Entertainment Weekly at Time. But their review of it was like, there's just something odd about the way it portrays Santa, the way it portrays certain things.
Which is, once again, all played by Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Tom
Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
You
I said Tom
crackhead.
Cruise.
Tom Cruise Santa says, Scientology's the answer. Everybody's getting Dianetics.
Dianetics.
But anyway, no, so I think that critique is, I think it's right. And I think having him play all three parts is inspired if you want to say, oh, the change really comes from within, and these are manifestations of him. That being said, I don't think it portrays that well enough. If you're going to go that route, you have to, for I have a better term, go full tilt boogie or don't.
Yeah. And I haven't seen it in a long
But
time.
no, and I agree with you about the fact that it went too dark because
I said dark. I don't know, but dark.
it
a
went
little
dark.
twerked.
Let's talk about the ghost again. The Ghost of Christmas Present. People by this time, people have a vision of the Ghost of Christmas Present based on current movies, like Mickey's Christmas Carol.
I would say Mickey, Scrooge. Yes.
He's just this robust, loud individual, and then all of a sudden you see him, spoiler, slowly decay into a laughing, maniacal skeleton, and he has these two weird little midget monsters underneath his skirt.
But those are
I know what you're
Greed
saying.
and it's
Greed
Greed
and- yeah.
Greed and another one. But so I think that pulled people out of it. But however, Jim Carrey's version of Scrooge, again, you see that slow evolution into.
I agree with that.
well, and I think that,
and plus the ghost of girl of past is, and then the high pitched, and then he puts him out with the.
Yeah.
It's straight out of the book, but
I think it's also important, though, and that's the thing, is if you're thinking about adapting this again, I think it is important that there's certain elements of it that should be dark.
Yeah.
Marley is not redeemed. Marley is still bearing chains for the rest of eternity.
And if you're going to do this, they have to come up with a new gimmick. They can't keep telling the same story over and over again. Of course, here we are, 100 years later, over 100 years later, and it's still popular as hell.
In a basement.
I want to do the nihilistic one, where they come and show him, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Most people are terrible.
Believe in nothing.
Yeah, no, or do one where it's like, well, see, where you let her go, she married and she's happy now, so that was a good call. You kicked these people out, but turns out they were dealing meth, so I guess that's good. just take it, well, maybe Scrooge is on to something. Maybe there's something to...
I do have one criticism about Robert Zemeckis' version, and it's creepy as hell. The Coast Christmas Present didn't creep me out. The whole death scene didn't creep me out. What creeps me out is the Ghost of Christmas Past, when it cuts to Jim Carrey as a kid in that schoolhouse and his little sister comes in. The eyes on that girl freak me the hell out.
I don't remember.
God, they're wide.
Oh, it's been so
they don't
long.
contour to the face. Her face it looks weirdly distorted.
But it did. You're absolutely right. It killed the mocap.
It killed
Robert
it.
Zemeckis, because he had done Polar Express. He had done Beowulf. And then it was, once again, another Christmas movie. And then and after that was going to be Yellow Submarine with all the Beatles songs.
But it didn't happen.
And instead, we got Across the Universe. Which
It's not, I've seen most. It's not a good movie.
there's two different cuts of it, too. There's an extended cut that allegedly...
I prefer the Beat Bugs.
There's also the Cirque du Soleil movie that has a lot of songs. Anyway.
Is there another one you like?
I think about... I was actually thinking of the Dukes of Hazzard one after you mentioned it.
Is it Boss Hogg?
Yeah, it's Boss Hogg.
Oh,
and
yeah. Who else is it gonna be?
He finally gets a chance, I think, to take the Duke's farm, and he basically doesn't he flash back to the fact that he and Uncle Jesse, spoiler alert if you're just now watching Duke's Father, but Uncle Jesse and Boss Hogg were friends, and they still have
What?
and they
When?
and he flashes back to the fact that if he does this, and of course it's syndicated, or it's a weekly television show, so it basically ends with, I'm gonna let him get away with it this week, but next week I'm gonna get the Duke boys.
That's also every '80s cartoon of the villains teaming up with the heroes to defeat another threat, and at the end of every episode, until we meet next time.
Yes.
You failed me for the last time, Starscream. And no, but I think that's it. I think there's I think the ones that do it and do it well now are the ones that are doing parodies of it. I think the throwaway lines from Montgomery Burns on The Simpsons that is coming from Scrooge.
Yes.
But as far as other versions that I love or hate, I mean, I think the story is compelling, so I always will give it a shot.
Yeah.
I've seen the Mr. Magoo version twice.
I don't know that I've seen the Mr. Magoo one.
I
I don't remember the Smurf one.
Shocker, he has trouble seeing the ghost.
Craig Dennis can't see that ghost.
Yeah. So we...
Inside joke.
but I think the other part about it is...
Do you guys have a copy of the Smurf one? I want to check that one out. I've seen the Flintstones one.
The Flintstones, I was about to say, there's been tons... But I think that's the other...
I don't think I've seen the Bugs Bunny one.
There's a bunch of them where they fake doing it and stuff like that. I think the part about it that does make it compelling and does make it able to go back to is the fact that it's just really a story of redemption.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day...
And you get to fix all the crap that you screwed up.
But you don't get to completely erase it. And I think that's what I like about it is, it ends with he became one of the greatest men the fair old city had ever known. He wasn't always that way. And I think the reason that works better than just one of, I time traveled and I was never a terrible person is it's more realistic and it's more hopeful to say, I was bad, I screwed up, there's still time for me to fix it. Yeah. And I think that's why it becomes a Christmas story. Is that it ties into that idea of redemption, that we there's still more to us and that we can turn things around. And alternatively, though, if you want to take this in a dark way, we will write the script where it turns out that Tiny Tim grows up
And becomes Hitler.
Ah, there he
and
goes.
starts.
There he goes.
How did he get downstairs?
I closed the door.
Tiny Tim will start a sweatshop, and we'll write that movie. And then Scrooge will be joined by a Terminator who will travel back in time to stop Tiny Tim. We'll write that. But we can have a spec script on that for what you think next week.
I'm looking for opposable thumbs.
So, for me, this season, I'll be watching Alistair Simwin and Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Scrooged.
I'll be watching Scrooge.
Scrooged, Mickey's Christmas Carol, which I've actually already watched 5 times.
I have not.
It's on Netflix, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I've already seen the Muppets Christmas Carol because it's Thanksgiving tradition. I will go back. I probably will watch it again.
And I'll be watching Jim Carrey.
I will probably also watch something I would argue is a very modern variation of Scrooge, which is there on the table, Bad Santa.
Yeah.
It really is, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. He robs from everybody, and then at the end, the boy's getting his elephant.
Yeah.
Don't watch the sequel.
But I think that's it. So I'll
Netflix.
watch Bad Santa. I'll watch Muppets. And I'll watch the classic, Alistair Sims. And I'll probably, to be honest, again, I'm not the hugest Dickens fan. There was a period where he got paid by the word, and that's when he cranked out Bleak House and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell. But I think this is a story that most people associate with him. And there's probably...
Robot House! Sorry, I had to do it.
There's probably good reason for
FYI,
that.
Del Toro's house where he keeps all of his stuff is called his Bleak House.
Oh, Bleak
It's
House?
named Bleak House. Yeah, for that.
And Dickens was a good author. He did inspire. One of his horror stories actually did inspire Poe to write A Telltale Heart. His story is actually bleaker because it's about a man that decides to kill his son because he hated his wife, and his son has his wife's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides to kill. So Dickens did write a story that was darker than what Poe adapted. So if you like horror, there is some Dickens you should check out. I'm not a big fan of all of Dickens' work, but this is his
He just
key
keeps
story.
saying Dickens.
Dickens.
Good old Chuck Dickens.
I'll
All right.
go back and count how many times you people said King.
Are we done?
We actually did episodes about King.
What is this episode about? The
Christmas Carol.
Which is by...
King.
Stephen
Oh my
King.
God, did Stephen King do that? I can't help but think he's going to have a short story
That's my
where...
knowledge.
By the way, Stephen King, Gauntlet Throne, adapt the crap out of the Christmas Carol.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was our Christmas episode. Have a happy, merry, whatever in the hell you celebrate.
Ho, ho, ho.
Festivus.
Shana, shana, shana.
Ho, 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 you
Shut
butt
up.
faces.
You butt
Festivus.
faces?
Butt
I
faces.
thought you were going to say something else.
Feel free to gather around your Festivus poll and tweet to us how we failed you. We don't care, but feel free to.
We will not be doing an episode for the next week. However, during New Year's, the weekend of New Year's, we'll be doing our wrap-up of the year of our favorite things that we saw, read, listened to during 2017.
And coming up, we'll also be doing an episode where we talk about other podcasts that you probably should listen to. Not until you listen to ours.
And other authors that you should be reading.
Yes, so we've got more coming, and we're expanding more into pop culture, so it's not going to be just movies. Though if this is what you love, we will get back to that.
And to get the business out of, to end on the business, please, we're starting to add episodes to Facebook, but please go to YouTube, subscribe,
SoundCloud,
leave comments,
iTunes.
and then go to iTunes and subscribe and rank us, write reviews. We're also on SoundCloud. Please rank us there if that's even an option.
If there is a station you go to and you think we would be great for it,
Recommend us.
recommend us.
Joe is a big fan of Podcast One.
Podcast One has a podcast that I listen to.
Yeah.
And by the way, throwing this out for the, I don't know, third or fourth time, Murder Virgin literally has now, I checked, has been seen by 800 people between the contest site, which still hosts it, and close to 100 now on YouTube. We still don't have 5 votes on IMDb. Don't have 5. By the way, I didn't want to, but because I thought maybe there's 4 and I could push us over the top, I registered and voted for us. Rank us 1 to 10. Give us a 1. I don't care. It'd just be nice that when people see this and go, oh, this is Bonehead, and they see not enough votes, not 5 votes. It's depressing.
It is
So
depressing.
if you want to give me a Christmas miracle,
I'll give you your Christmas goose.
You silly goose.
All right then. Thank you so much. That was Bonehead. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
And if he's going to die, he best do it and decrease the surplus population.
Peace.
Have your pets faded.
Are we ready?
We are.
Are we starting? Welcome to Bonehead. Merry Christmas.
Well, let's just get over it, kids.
You up,
Oh my God. Think of the children. I mean, not when you're doing that. Don't think of children when you're doing that because that's sick and that'll get you elected.
I'm ready to go again.
Yeah, let's do that again. Do not use that.
Oh, we're gonna use that.
No.